Guess what? The high-tech world surprises us one more time. In China, there was a first world half marathon where 21 robots ran alongside humans. Yes, first robot half marathon in Beijing. So from China to this side of the world, in Spain, last week, a woman with a history of domestic abuse contacted the police, and her request was registered with a tool. A digital tool assesses the likelihood of this woman being attacked by the same man again. She went to police and asked for a restraining order so her ex-partner wouldn't contact her and wouldn't be in contact with her. So the algorithm judged her at medium risk. Request was denied. 3 weeks later, she's dead. 2 countries, 2 stories, 2 outcomes. Whether you like it or not, some of you, if not already, will be interacting and being judged by algorithms. Are you ready for that? Or the better question is, what is going to be your relationship with them? Will you trust them like you trust a friend sitting next to you? The better question for me is, what if I told you that the human relationships built on trust are the most powerful force that we have and can shape our future? Trust, whether it's luottamus in Finnish, tilil in Danish, doверие in Russian, ishonch in Uzbek, is the foundation of our survival, our communities, our relationships. It has power to bridge divides, spark hope, and remind us of our deeply shared humanity. But this is the question I want us to all confront today. Will we build trust? Or will, in this world which is ongoingly increasing, controlled by power and technology, will it crumble like little irreparable pieces? I want to talk to you today about how trust feels like from my personal experience. We will together unpack bias, power, privilege, and how that affects, structures our relations. And then we'll look at 3 risks which makes trust a victim in our current society. And let's figure out later a way for us. What's the world striving for? So, to understand why trust is difficult for me, I want you should know where I'm from. I'm born and raised in post-Soviet world, which is a mix between authoritarian and colonial power structures. The mistrust was the default, and I couldn't, relate to others. I couldn't trust other systems which were there to uphold us. And I had also to struggle with my complex dual identity, the Russian-speaking and the Uzbek, where the Uzbek side, identity, culture, language, felt often erased. But despite all this, I had also a nice glimpse of connection and what trust could feel like. 25 years ago, yeah, that's me over there. 25 years ago, I went on an exchange with Future Leaders Exchange Program, where students from post-Soviet world were taken to America to shatter the stereotypes of the Cold War. So it was a unique opportunity for me to see the dialogue between 2 divided worlds, and also to see the hope and how we can shatter stereotypes. Fast forward to today, ironic. This program is being cancelled due to American policy, and the bridges are dismantling because of this geopolitics, which is on the rise again. So when war happened in Ukraine, that confronted and, really had to confront my identity even further. I speak Russian, a language connected to oppression, power, and violence I never asked for. I was shamed to speaking it. Should I reject it? And then I was confronted with these stares in the bus when I spoke Russian to my daughter. These biases, they also break your trust. And then later, I figured out maybe I should go on this path of decolonization. I had to accept the roots where I'm from, unlearn the biases of these power structures, and reclaim my narrative. So rebuilding trust happened also when I went to Kazakhstan, Central Eurasian leadership training, where I confronted these very vulnerable talks with my peers from 10 countries. We embraced these discussions with so much vulnerability, where there were emotional walls are super high. And it was possible, and we needed that healing. But the truth is, we are in the middle of world's global trust crisis. The systems that are designed for our human rights and democracy are failing. The women's rights are under threat. The climate change is ignored. And the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts are under attack. We are also struggling with the post-truth reality to separate facts from fake. So where do we go from here? Let's dig deeper to this, because trust is not just personal, it's also structural. I present you here a privilege wheel. How many of you have seen it? Privilege wheel? Yes, some of you. So this is a tool we use in diversity, equity, inclusion to understand how privilege shapes the trust that we build. So in the middle, you will see those who have belonged to the norm. White, Western, able-bodied, neurotypical, and the one speaking dominant language, Finnish or Swedish. And those on the margins of it are the people who don't fit this norm. So the people who are having the privilege, they are the ones creating the power structures that then replicate in our workplaces, and then how we take care and form our relationships. But where we are on this wheel is not about guilt. It's an opportunity for us to confront our bias and create empathy and fairness. So what happens when these people who have the privileges create our systems, our AI technology? Let me give you an analogy to understand it. So imagine someone designs an algorithm who convinced that apples is the best fruit. Yes, apples. So that algorithm is going to rank apples first every single time, ignoring the diversity of mangoes, apples, or watermelons. Mangoes, bananas, watermelons. And how is that then bias replicates online? So some of you, I'll take you an example to the local example in Finland. Last year, Daniela Vuoso became the first person of color in the Finnish occasion of Lucia. She was Finland's Saint Lucia. And something that supposed to bring unity and celebration, brought a storm of thousands of racist comments online. It just shows how racial bias is very much exponentially growing online. And luckily, Finns took against this hate. They took on their privilege and they said how much trust we need to rebuild by just looking up to her. So if trust is difficult to me, how is then trust is difficult in the society? Now you heard my story. And I wanted to take you to these 3 risks which make trust a victim. Learned helplessness is the first one, is that psychologist Martin Seligman refers learned helplessness to someone who is under repeated amount of stress, gives up agency, power, when you are even given an opportunity to do something about it. So you actually give away your control. And the way we see this learned helplessness in our society is that it's not only because how we interacting with political systems, but it's how we also interact with digital systems. So what we do is we think less, not more. We are struggling with cognitive thinking because we know this brain rot, how overconsumption online content makes you tired. And it's just basically you just disengage and the mistrust becomes the default. The second risk, relentless individualism. Our race for happiness, it makes us so miserable and lonelier than ever. We are offered connection at every point and still we're lonely. Look at Finland, 8 times happiest country. 59% of us feel lonely. More so young people. So how does that happen? What happens here? We are taking comfort over connection. We cancel plans and call it self-care. I can see those guts feelings. And then we see how our race for happiness, we basically we want to be so self-centered and selfish, as Emeritus Professor Liisa Keltikangas-Järvinen warns us, is that we are eroding the ties of our communities. So, the last risk is Finnish friendships. Finnish friendships. We know trust in Finland and friendships, they don't blossom immediately. They take time. The social bonds take time. And I went once to a kayaking club. I joined kayaking club and nobody talked to me. I felt invisible. But I'm like, okay. Then I noticed when somebody talked, like I needed help to carry my kayak, strangers would show up to me and carry my kayak every single time. So then I understood that Finns have this thing called deep trust. Quiet trust, which is deeply dependable. That means when it gets really, like real crisis, we can show up for each other. But we need more than quiet trust. We see so much in the media and reports that it's so hard to belong here. It's hard to get a job, it's hard to be here, find friends, in the cold climate and a cold personal climate and racist attitudes. So where do we go from here? With so many challenges, I still think there is another way, another path forward. And it starts with asking ourselves, am I creating an environment where everybody feels safe? Because antidote to exclusion and mistrust is inclusivity. So what if we lean to power of inclusivity? It's not just a buzzword. It's a commitment to action, commitment to have behaviors which is fostering empathy, psychological safety, and belonging. Inclusivity, if you imagine, is these two sensors which helps you to navigate the world, to navigate differences with curiosity, not judgment. That you're able to hold space for your differences. And then you're also able to value, what is it called, expanding your capacity to truly be curious. Inclusivity is not nice, just being kind, it's resilience. So when we're looking at what if we, leaning in the power inclusivity, we need that not just good intentions of being inclusive, we need to redesign spaces where we can bring people together. We need to help to bring new communities, bring new ways to connect people who are so disconnected from this world. I did my first TED Talk on volunteering and how through volunteering and empowering others, I empowered myself. But then now I work with diversity, equity, inclusion, and I channel this experience so people feel represented and expected. I channel these experiences and I work with professional theater artists. I work with dancers and poets, and they bring something called collective effervescence. Artists remind us that connection, trust, and belonging happens in person, not online, in person. Because they bring you vulnerably together, depolarizing the space, and you're utterly human. And now, again, in Finland, we don't hide behind facts, science, and efficiency. So the artists are very inspiring to me because they make me feel alive. The connection that I bring into company events, to community events, to truly understand what is exclusion and inclusion, because they make invisible visible. So we have the inclusivity mindset. We need the new communities which are geared for belonging, but we also need conversation starters, diverse people here as well, who can be championing these communities and translating trust through local narratives like Sisu, the grit, quiet resilience, and then global narratives like Ubuntu of South Africa, I am because we are. And then from Philippines, we have Kapwa. It reminds us that we're all interconnected. So what happens when we're thinking of our relentless individualism, our learned helplessness, and difficulty of bridging hopes? We have this call action. I have this call action to you, depending on who you are. What else we can do is if you are here as AI developers, students, founders, technologists shaping AI, please ask critical questions. Who is in the data and who isn't, even with the power of stupid questions. To those of you who are the academics, we need your data and expertise. Be there on social media and deliver the data and knowledge in language where everyone understands. And lastly, to business leaders, regional developers, please create intentional belonging programs community programs based on belonging. So in reality, trust is like one collective tapestry. Every thread is an imperfect, messy interaction. And when we weave these, every story, every relationship, every culture becomes interwoven to this tapestry. When we're individually, yeah, we may be fragile. But when we bring these bonds together, we can weave the bonds so resilient, so strong, unbreakable even. And that's the fabric of trust. But I have a truth moment for you. You all need a thread to contribute to this tapestry. And I believe this is the in-person world that's worth striving for. Will you join me? Thank you.